The number one reason most people freeze during a power outage. Hook. If you've ever worried about getting through a winter power outage, here's the hard truth: most people do not get dangerously cold because they have zero heat sources. They get cold because they try to heat too much space, lose body heat too fast, and fail to create a survivable microclimate inside the home. In this video, I'm going to show you why that mistake matters, how to fix it with simple low-cost steps, and how to stay warmer longer without wasting fuel, energy, and effort. Intro. Welcome back to the Mountain Home channel. This is for the budget-conscious prepper, the family trying to make an ordinary house more resilient, and the person who wants practical preparedness without panic or expensive fantasy gear. Today we're talking about winter outages, indoor cold, and the number one mistake that turns a manageable situation into a miserable or even dangerous one. A lot of people assume the answer is just more heaters, more blankets, or a better generator. But the real issue often starts before any of that. It starts with heat loss, space control, and the failure to create a smaller, warmer zone inside the home. This is not medical advice, and it's not a substitute for emergency services if someone is in real danger. But it is practical, home-level preparedness guidance that can make a major difference when the power is out and temperatures are dropping. Challenge. The challenge during a cold weather outage is not just generating heat. The challenge is keeping enough heat around people to matter. That sounds obvious, but this is where a lot of people go wrong. They stay spread out through the house. They keep opening doors. They sleep in large cold rooms. They try to heat the whole home with tiny improvised solutions. They underestimate drafts, hard floors, window heat loss, and the amount of warmth that disappears into unused space. And once the indoor temperature starts falling, the house becomes a heat loss machine. Big rooms, high ceilings, leaky windows, tile and concrete floors, stairwells, and constant movement all work against you. Even if you have some blankets, candles, a small heater, or warm clothing, you can still get cold fast if you never control the environment around your body. That is why the most important idea in this entire conversation is not buy more stuff. It is shrink the space you are trying to survive in. Mistake. The number one mistake most people make during a power outage is failing to create a microclimate inside the home. A microclimate, in this context, simply means a smaller, more controlled living area where body heat, insulation, bedding, clothing, and any safe heat source can work together instead of being wasted into the entire structure. Most people do the opposite. They leave the whole house psychologically open. They move from room to room. They keep normal routines too long. They assume a blanket on the couch is enough. They rely on the idea that the house itself is sheltering them, when in reality the house may be leaking warmth faster than they can replace it. This is why two households can face the same outage with very different outcomes. One keeps losing heat into empty rooms and wide open space. The other closes off part of the home, layers insulation, concentrates people and bedding, controls drafts, and protects warmth where it actually matters. The second household often stays dramatically more comfortable even without expensive equipment. Lesson: what a microclimate does. So what does a microclimate actually do? First, it reduces the amount of air you are trying to keep warm. Second, it helps body heat accumulate instead of dispersing through the whole structure. Third, it lets blankets, sleeping bags, rugs, curtains, clothing layers, and temporary barriers work much more effectively. Fourth, it reduces exposure to drafts and cold surfaces. And fifth, it helps you preserve fuel and energy if you do have a limited safe heating option. This is the same basic logic behind sleeping in one room, building a blanket fort over bedding, isolating a downstairs living space, covering windows, blocking door gaps, and getting everyone off cold floors. None of that is glamorous. But it works because it follows the physics instead of the fantasy. Application: how to build a home microclimate. Let's make this practical. Step 1: choose the right room. You want the smallest reasonable space that is safe, usable, and easiest to control. Interior rooms are often easier to manage than big open areas. Rooms with fewer windows are generally better. Lower floors may help in some setups because they are easier to isolate, but every house is different. The key question is simple: where can you keep people warmest with the least wasted space? Step 2. Shut down unused space. Close doors to unused rooms. Block off open archways if possible. Limit traffic in and out. Every unnecessary opening bleeds heat. Treat the rest of the house as unconditioned space and focus on the zone that actually matters. Step 3. Reduce drafts. Cold air movement makes a bad situation worse fast. Use towels, rolled clothing, or draft blockers at door bottoms. Cover drafty windows with curtains, blankets, or other temporary layers if needed and safe. If you can reduce moving cold air, the room becomes more livable even before the temperature changes much. Step 4. Insulate people from surfaces. A lot of body heat gets lost into floors, walls, and poorly insulated furniture. Put rugs, blankets, foam pads, mattresses, or sleeping pads between people and cold surfaces. It is not just about what covers you. It is also about what is underneath you. Step 5. Layer the sleeping setup. If an outage is likely to continue overnight, your sleeping arrangement matters more than your daytime comfort. Pile insulation below and above the body. Use sleeping bags if you have them. Layer blankets intelligently. Keep hats, dry socks, and warm base layers available. If appropriate for the household, sleeping closer together in the controlled space can help preserve warmth. Step 6. Use body heat intelligently. One person in a large cold room is working alone against a lot of air volume. Several people in a smaller insulated space change the equation. This is one reason a controlled family sleep area can outperform everyone scattering to separate bedrooms. Step 7. If you have a safe supplemental heat source, apply it to the microclimate, not the whole house. This is critical. A limited heat source becomes more effective when aimed at a smaller controlled environment. But any combustion heat source must be used safely, with proper ventilation and according to manufacturer guidelines. Never improvise indoor heat with unsafe devices. Carbon monoxide and fire risk can kill faster than cold. What people get wrong about heat sources. This is where people often miss the bigger picture. They think the answer is, I need a bigger heater. But sometimes what they really need is better heat retention. A weak heat source in a well-controlled microclimate can outperform a stronger heat source wasted into a drafty, oversized living area. This is especially true when fuel is limited, backup power is limited, or you are trying to stretch supplies through a long outage. The goal is not to feel like it's normal. The goal is to stay safe, stay warm enough, and conserve what you have. Other mistakes that make people colder. There are several other mistakes that stack on top of the microclimate problem. 1. Wearing the wrong layers indoors, especially cotton against the skin if people are damp or sweating. 2. Underestimating how much heat is lost through floors and bedding. 3. Constant door opening and movement through the house. 4. Trying to sleep in normal bedrooms instead of consolidating. 5. Waiting too long to set up the warm zone. 6. Failing to prepare lighting, water, and basic comfort items in the same space, which forces people to keep leaving the room. Preparedness works better when the cold room becomes a system, not just a place. Low-cost items that help. This is also where inexpensive items can do real work. Blankets. Sleeping bags. Curtains. Towels for drafts. Floor rugs. Foam pads. Layered clothing. Warm hats. Wool socks. Hot water bottles if safely available. Shelf-stable drinks and snacks kept nearby. Battery lighting. Charged power banks. A thermometer. These are not flashy purchases, but together they help the space function. Again, this channel is about practical survival, not expensive hype. A low-cost warm room plan is often more valuable than a gear wishlist with no real system behind it. Realistic expectations. Now keep realistic expectations. A microclimate does not turn a freezing house into a summer cabin. It is a damage control strategy. It helps you retain warmth, conserve energy, reduce exposure, and buy time. In a severe cold event, you still need to assess risk honestly, especially with children, the elderly, medically vulnerable people, or dangerously low indoor temperatures. But for many households, this one shift in thinking changes everything. Instead of losing a battle against the whole house, you start defending one's own well. Conclusion. So what is the number one reason most people freeze during a power outage? It is not always lack of heat. It is usually lack of heat control. When people fail to create a microclimate, they waste warmth into empty space, lose heat faster, and make every blanket, heater, and layer less effective. When they shrink the space, block drafts, insulate surfaces, consolidate people, and focus on warmth retention, the same supplies often work far better. That is the kind of practical preparedness that matters. Not bigger promises. Better systems. If you think through this now, before the outage, you can make a normal house much more survivable in winter without spending a fortune. CTA. Prepare for anything. Visit https://preparedpathways.com for expert tips, guides, and resources to build your emergency food supply today. Get your emergency survival kit here. https://shorturl.it/1lnpr. If you want more practical home preparedness guides built for real budgets and real-world conditions, stay with the Mountain Home channel.